Top lawyers assembled at the Supreme Court today as the country's apex court commenced a three-day hearing of the 7 consolidated presidential election petition at its temporary seat at the Milimani Law Courts in Nairobi. The hearing got underway a day after the court issued directions on preliminary issues raised by parties during the pre-trial conference. First up to make their case before the Chief Justice Koome-led bench were the main petitioners Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga and his running mate Martha Karua, who had 3 hours to convince the judges that what was announced by IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati on the 15th of August ought to have not been the case. Through their lawyer, James Orengo, Raila says he has evidence showing that the final vote used to declare Ruto the winner, quote, was manipulated through conspiracy.
Unlike many elections, this particular election, there was deceit, there was manipulation, and all this was premeditated and made possible by the attack, if I may put it that way, on the IT structure and system of the Electoral Commission.
The Siaya governor told the judges that the Electoral Commission's final tally of the votes as declared by IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati does not add up.
If the total number of voters that take part in the election do not agree with the votes that are counted as cast in accordance with Article 138(4), if they don't agree, then it means that the results of that election are not accurate, they're not transparent, and they're not accountable.
Odinga has further alluded to the fact that there was a deliberate mischief in the use of the statutory form 34A in the polling stations to indicate presidential results.
Before you, my lords and my ladies, set out in the affidavits that I referred to, shows an election that was rigged in favor of the second respondent. And on that basis, my lords, we urge that you nullify the elections on the basis of the fact that the second respondent did not attain more than 50% plus 1 of the votes cast in the election.
Basing their arguments on an affidavit filed by Celestina Nyango, Counsel Julie Soweto pointed out that 41 forms 34As sampled from Bomet, Kiambu and Kakamega counties indeed had discrepancies. Father Soweto says that the postponement of the election in some areas were deliberately postponed and not the making of a printed error. Lawyer Paul Mwangi further illustrated to the 7-judge bench how IEBC Chair Wafula Chebukati emasculated the roles of the commissioners and announced the presidential results without their input of the IEBC commissioners. Moreover, lawyer Philip Murgor claimed that IEBC system was inherently corrupted in favor of the president-elect William Ruto.
Very serious allegations. I say that we get it from the affidavits of the 4 commissioners who have differed with the chairman. They have stated categorically that that whole system was created by was controlled by one person, the third respondent. They were kept in the dark. Mr. Nyangaya, who was in charge of ICT, was also shocked that foreigners were controlling the system and had access during and after the election.
Murgor, basing his argument on Justice Nyagaya's affidavit, an IEBC commissioner who was tasked to lead the ICT department during the polls, maintains that the 3 Venezuelans who were arrested by the DCI had a hand in manipulating the IEBC system during the tallying.
It shows that this election was controlled from everywhere except IEBC. And I have read the affidavit of Mr. Chebukati. He suggests that the Venezuelans felt harassed after their arrest and left the country, but I respectfully submit that they remained fully connected to the IEBC servers.
Lawyer Feroz Noroje, on the other end, explained that Chebukati acted outside the confines of the Constitution in the verification, and if found guilty by the court, the senior advocate called the Martha Koome-led bench to punish Chebukati in accordance to the law.
If there is evidence that you find, you may issue directions that the certificate is to be made out in the name of the person who has secured more votes. So, if this Honourable Court finds that Mr. Chebukati is responsible for and has committed actions and decisions which are an attempt to establish a government otherwise than in compliance, another declaration that this person, pursuant to Article 33, Sub-Article 2, is no longer fit to hold public office.
The court, presided by Chief Justice Martha Koome, is expected to conclude the hearings on Friday before the 7-judge court retreats to pen a summary ruling over the weekend ahead of the much-awaited verdict on Monday. Abdiaziz Hashim, Ebru TV.